Jayson Stark back here on the show. How you been, Jayson?
Rich, I'm good, but I'm not wearing a blazer.
You're not? So what are, I mean,
Not.
do I want to ask you what you're wearing right now, Jayson?
Whoa.
It's my standard writing attire, T-shirt and shorts.
Attaboy. Well done. You know, we were talking last hour, and we're talking all week, just the way things are shaping up in the American League. It's entirely possible that we have two 100-win teams battle it out for a wild card, one-and-done battle in the playoffs, Jayson. Right?
Yeah, very possible. You know, we've never had a 100-win team playing the wild card game. And
I think we're definitely going to get that. I don't know if we're going to get two, but I think we're definitely going to get that this time around.
I would think we'll get one when you look at the pace the Yankees and Red Sox are on.
Right.
And, you know, if nothing else, I think this turns this Yankees-Red Sox race into the best race between those two teams probably since 1978,
Yeah.
Bucky Dent. You know, there were some races in the 90s and the early 2000s where they were the two best teams, but back then there was no such thing as a wild card game, and there was no real penalty if you're the wild card, and they didn't even care if they finished first. That's not going to be true this year, because if you're the wild card, just think of the path. It's a treacherous path. You got to survive that wild card game. You know, say you're the Red Sox, you've got to spend Chris Sale to do it. You may have to beat James Paxton to do it. Now you're going to go face the best team in that league, another 100-win team. It'll be Astros, or could be Mariners, could be Yankees. This is no way to try to get to the World Series. So winning the AL East has never been more important than it will be this year.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the 78 Yankees-Red Sox. I mean, that was the year of the Boston Massacre when the Yankees came from 14 back only to be 4 back, going to Fenway and then sweeping it all, and then that led to that one-game playoff with Bucky Dent, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't see either one of these teams being more than a game or two in front of the other all year long. That said, I imagine the July deadline will be important for both of these teams also. How do you see that shaping up, Jayson?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this often comes down to the team that makes the best deal. And, you know, the Yankees have been incredible. They have not lost a series since the second week of April. But as they look at their team, I think they feel like they need a Game 2 starter, maybe a Game 2 and Game 3 starter in the postseason. And so they'll be really aggressive looking for starting pitching in July. The Red Sox, I think a lot depends on health, but their lineup's been great. Their rotation is built for October, given health. I mean, I would think right now that bullpen would be the area they would want to attack, that group leading up to Craig Kimbrell at the end. But stay tuned. You know, health really affects a lot of this stuff. And, you know, right now we're in a really early stages of the pre-deadline chatter.
Jayson Stark here on the Rich Eisen Show. How do you see it playing out with Manny Machado, though? That's definitely going to happen, correct?
Well, it should. The Orioles know right now they're in the middle of a lost season, and there's probably no more interesting name leading up to the deadline than Manny. We're going to spend the next 5-6 weeks talking about him nonstop. I know that. But, you know, the Orioles move really slowly, very deliberately. And, you know, there's some question in the minds of teams that have talked to them who really has the final call on what happens with Manny. And so that could cause some issues as they head for the deadline. And another thing to watch is, you know, Manny wanted to play shortstop this year. But, you know, teams that have talked to the Orioles are saying that they're willing to trade him to somebody that will play him at third base. He might not be happy about that, but it obviously widens their field as they try to stoke some kind of bidding war. And there could be a lot of plot lines running through the Manny Machado stuff, so stay tuned.
Jayson Stark here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Dodgers coming back from the dead has been remarkable. How have they done it, Jayson?
Well, you know, we haven't had a team that was 10 games under 500 that survived to make the postseason since the 2009 Rockies. And there have only been 2 teams in history that were ever 10 games under and won the World Series. There was the 2003 Marlins and the Miracle Braves. So if Miracle's in your nickname, you know how hard it is, right? But they've had some amazing things happen. Like Ross Stripling and Max Muncy and Matt Kemp saving the Dodgers season is not a sentence I thought I would ever utter. But that's really what's happened, right? And now they're starting to get healthy after surviving this incredible period where they had basically an all-star rotation on the disabled list. The Diamondbacks have had such a bizarre year. 20-8 in April, never lost a series, then 8-19 in May, now 12-6 in June. So I don't know exactly what they are, but this does have a chance to be a fun race.
And then there's the All-Star game obviously coming up next month. Do you think Bryce Harper's future will be front and center? What's going to be the main storyline when we go to Washington, D.C. for the All-Star game?
You know, Rich, Bryce has been trying to shut down that talk.
He sure has.
Ever since day one of spring training. I don't know how easy it'll be for him to do that in that setting. He and Manny Machado are going to be the marquee free agents just because of name and star power, and that's going to come up, and neither one of them can really stop it. I'm sure they won't be comfortable with it, but when we get to the All-Star game, it's people like us who get to determine, what the storylines are until they actually start playing. So I'll be interested to see how they answer those questions. Bryce has had such an odd year. I'm not worried about him getting paid. Like, he's 25 years old, but was he going to get paid $400, $500, $600 million? Based on the way he's swinging the bat right now, good luck on that.
Yeah, I know. He's in a deep slump and funk. But when it all comes down to it, I mean, Washington can't just let him walk for nothing. So where do you think it's going to what do you think is going to happen with him?
They're not going to trade him. They're going to try to win the World Series with him. They're built to win, and you just saw them go out and trade for Kelvin Herrera in the name of winning. This is the most important year in the history of their franchise since they got to D.C., and they're going to ride it out with Bryce. They'll offer him the qualifying offer. I don't know that anybody expects that when the dust settles and somebody signs on the dotted line that he'll wind up back in Washington, but their plan has always been to try to win with him.
Jayson Stark here on the Rich Eisen Show. A couple more minutes left with Jayson. So when it all comes down to it, you're talking Machado on the market. What big name pitchers might be out there, do you think?
This has been something that I would say worries the Yankees quite a bit. We talked about them wanting to trade for a Game 2 starter. That guy might not be out there, and that's a problem. Cole Hamels, J. Happ, they can help your team, but they're not what we're used to. Now, if the Mets decide they really are serious about wanting to trade Jacob deGrom or Noah Syndergaard, which I'm dubious about, get back to me. If the Rays were to decide they would be willing to trade Chris Archer, get back to me. But it's possible there won't be a single top-of-the-rotation starter who gets traded in July.
Well, that would be a problem for a team that's looking for an ace in July to try and go pitch for pitch with somebody like Houston or the Red Sox when it all comes down to it. Now, where does the Hunter Strickland story rank for you, Jayson, in terms of self-inflicted
when you punch
wounds?
The Doors are always undefeated. And I thought somebody was joking on Twitter that the Door had homered off Hunter 3 years ago, so he finally exacted his revenge.
Wow.
Yeah. Punching stuff after you blow a save.
Right.
Almost always when you punch the door or the wall or you break the light bulbs or whatever, they had nothing to do with it. It's just not. I just don't recommend it.
Right.
And this has been kind of the story of the Giants' year. Just when they think things are starting to move in the right direction. Something goofy like this happens.
And one last one. We haven't really hit it on this show. I know Brockman and a bunch of MLB fans certainly enjoyed seeing the R-rated microphone mic'd up, picked up conversation, if you will, between Terry Collins and the name of the umpire escapes me right now. I'm sure you know off the top of your head, Jason.
You know what? That actually got taken down before I had a chance to watch it.
Well, I saw it. I saw it, and it's behind. It's, you want to call it inside baseball. It was really fascinating to see, but I understand why baseball took it down, because that's the sort of stuff that umpires. Sure, they'll wear mics for you for entertainment purposes, but that sort of stuff where they're working blue and talking about their thoughts on Major League Baseball shouldn't be put out there. Do we know how that got out there, Jayson, or is baseball still looking in that? Best you know?
Yeah, they're investigating. The ump was Tom Hallion, by the way. And,
right.
Rob Manfred talked about this last week at the owners' meetings. They don't understand how this got out. There's a limited number of people who theoretically would have access to that sort of video. And, it's going to be interesting to see, A, if they ever figure it out, and B, if they ever tell us. Somebody had some ulterior motives, man.
I bet. Thanks for the call, Jayson. Appreciate it. We'll chat down the line.
Rich, always a pleasure, buddy.
You got it. That's MLB Network's Jayson Stark.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.